1970 was a year of challenge for the Bears, a challenge unique in the organization's half-century history. The 1970 team was asked to travel the long road back from a 1969 experience unprecedented for the Bears, a single victory out of 14 games. The objective was clearly defined for head coach Jim Dooley and his assistants. There was work to be done. There had to be a renewal of confidence and vitality. There had to be pride of accomplishment and revival of winning techniques. There had to be drastic changes made, and there were. Trades were made for seasoned NFL starters. The college player draft was productive, and those newcomers were blended in with solid veterans and maturing younger regulars. Thus, the team prepared for 1970. The critical crusade began formally on a September Saturday night in Yankee Stadium. Bears against Giants in another link in a rivalry that began a long, long time ago. There was almost instant excitement for the Bears. After the Giants had scored an early field goal, Cecil Turner took the kickoff that followed and ran it back 95 yards for a touchdown. But the 7-3 lead melted as Fran Tarkenton passed the Giants into command and brought about a 13-10 advantage for them at the half. For the Bears, there was readjustment in the second half. Jack Concannon used the running of Gale Sayers to set up his passing game. The balanced attack eventually put the Bears into a 17-16 lead, with Concannon getting the final yard and touchdown. Then the Bears defense subjected Tarkenton and his receivers to pressure severe enough that the lead held up. One instance of this fierce defense was Doug Buffone's interception. It set up a Concannon to Dick Gordon pass for a clincher score. The next week, the Bears opened at home. For the first time in history, the home opener was on a site other than Wrigley Field as they met the Philadelphia Eagles in Northwestern University's Dyke Stadium. For the second straight week, Cecil Turner produced an early spectacular when he returned the opening kickoff, this time for 96 yards and a touchdown. But just as the Giants had done the week before, the Eagles came back to make it a close game. But they couldn't move ahead as the Bears' defense again was grudging. Once, for instance, their pressure forced a hurried snap on an Eagle field goal attempt to set up a Bears touchdown. Ron Bull took a pitch out from Concannon and left-handed a pass to Gordon. So the Bears had an encouraging 2-0 start with many similarities in the two victories. Turner's two kickoff returns for scores, a stout defense, and vital touchdown passes caught by Dick Gordon. Gordon had a strong start toward what was to be his best season in the NFL. He led all receivers with 71 catches, of which 13 were for touchdowns. His 13th touchdown came in the season final at New Orleans and tied the Bears' team mark for TD pass catches set by Ken Cavanaugh in 1947. The Bears were up against another unbeaten opponent, Detroit, in their third start in a nationally televised contest. With Concannon scrambling or throwing strikes, the Bears took a 7-0 lead. The lead came when Gordon got behind Lem Barney for the catch. On defense, the Bears stalked and cut down the talented Lion runners to preserve the 7-0 lead at halftime. But the Lions' defense reversed the momentum in the third quarter. And the Lion offense scored 3 times for a 21-7 margin. On the first play of the fourth quarter, however, Gordon beat Barney again, this time from 60 yards out. Unfortunately, that score was the Bears' final threatening gesture, and the Bears had their first loss of 1970, 28-14. When the teams met again in Wrigley Field 3 weeks later, the Bears came up with one of their better displays of the season. Again, it was the Concannon-Gordon combination, beating Barney with a 53-yard bomb and a quick lead. Despite success in the air, including this 60-yarder to George Farmer to the Detroit 4, the Bears failed to capitalize. It was the inability to score from in close that was to torment the Bears all year. In this rematch against the Lions, the Bears played inspired football on defense. They shut off both running and passing. Until the fourth quarter, when Bill Munson probed the Bears' secondary and found Earl McCullough for a 13-7 lead, Detroit's first of the game. But the Bears didn't fold, and they moved into Lion territory. While this play cheered their fans, Chicago had to settle for a field goal and wound up with a 16-10 defeat. Missed opportunities had been costly to the Bears. The defense had played magnificently in a performance that was repeated many times this season. As in the past, the Bears of 1970 had a fierce, rugged defense. A defense that knocked down eager receivers and churning runners with equal efficiency and abandon. It was a defense that converged on anyone carrying a football. Defense with quality has to be a team effort, but it has to start with an individual in some area. Middle linebacker is most appropriate, and in Dick Butkus, the Bears have the best. Dick is a familiar sight to Bears partisans as he stops plays at the line or snuffs out quarterbacks behind it. Butkus's beat is from sideline to sideline, and he's a tireless, tenacious roamer. A familiar trademark is Butkus hitting. It is this aggressiveness and follow-through that have earned him all league honors 5 times in 6 years. Alongside Dick is 5-year veteran Doug Buffone, an outside linebacker whose 4 pass interceptions in 1970 were the most ever picked off by a Bear assigned to his particular position. The interceptions get the statistical attention, but Doug is equally effective against the run, and he hits with authority, too. And about all interceptions, there's teamwork involved in bringing about successful steals. And how about that defensive line of Willie Holman, Bill Staley, Ed Obradovich, and George Seals? Holman, number 85, is a 2-year man whose speed gets him to the pocket almost on the dot with the quarterback. And Willie is just as awesome at defensing the run. Or consider Bill Staley, number 76, the defensive tackle who came in one of those significant off-season trades. Staley and Holman on their side are mates, with George Seals and veteran Ed Obradovich teamed on the other. Obradovich, number 87, has been a scourge to rival quarterbacks since 1962. Seals is a transfer from offense, a fine guard on offense. George knows the equipment needed over on the other side. He uses that knowledge well on defense, getting to the passer or coping with the run. Third of the linebacking triumvirate is veteran Leroy Caffey, number 60, another acquisition by trade. And backing him up is Ross Brubacher, number 31, a fourth-round draft choice for 1970. The Bears' defensive front line and linebackers collaborated to finish fourth in rushing defense overall and first in fewest average yards per rush allowed the opposition. The defensive secondary was experienced with the addition of Phil Clark, number 39, who came in a trade. He joined Joe Taylor, number 20. And 9-year Bear veteran Benny McRae, number 26. Dick Daniels, number 23, rounds out the quartet. It was well that the defense had muscular efficiency. The offense lost Gale Sayers, its premier running and scoring threat. In the fourth game of the year against Minnesota, in pursuit of Alan Page, who had recovered a Bears fumble, Gale suffered a stretched ligament in the left knee that required surgery. In 1968, he had missed the last 5 games of the schedule because of a right knee injury requiring surgery, and Gale played in only 2 of the first 4 games in 1970. Touchdowns were tough to come by down in the enemy zone, and too often field goals had to be the resort. Mac Percival had a good place-kicking year, 20 field goals, including the second 50-yarder of his career. And when it became evident that the Bears would have to turn to the pass as a weapon, Percival once even became a receiver. In another switch, punter Bobby Joe Green twice completed passes. There was a chance for a more conventional attack, too, with development of 2 fine first-year receivers. A trade brought ex-Notre Dame All-American Jim Seymour from the Los Angeles Rams. And though he caught only 6 passes, his scoring percentage was phenomenal, as 4 were for touchdowns. 2 in the win over New Orleans, and the other 2 from Bobby Douglas in the victory over Buffalo. Probably the most pleasant surprise among the rookies was third-round draft choice George Farmer. He improved steadily and wound up with 28 catches. Farmer technically was a number 1 pick because the rebuilding program included the trades of the Bears' regular first and second choices. In Atlanta, the Bears' dependency on the pass would trouble them. Concannon faced a tough Falcon rush line that pressured both him and his receivers. With Chicago unable to move, Atlanta's Bob Berry passed the Falcons to a 14-13 lead. But in the end, a familiar equation would lead the Bears to a win. As in their opening two successes, defense plus Cecil Turner equaled victory. Turner's third touchdown return of the season keyed the Bears' third victory. Most encouraging, however, the Bears showed steady improvement for the rest of the year against increasingly talented opposition. The competitive aspects of the Bears-Packers rivalry was reflected in the outcome of their first meeting. The Bears found themselves behind early as Bart Starr coolly moved the Pack to a 10-0 halftime lead. It was the defense that got Chicago moving as Joe Taylor intercepted a star pass to set up a field goal. And Concannon and Gordon tied the game on a 69-yard bomb. They teamed again to set up a Percival field goal and the Bears' first lead. Chicago built the lead to 19-13 on two more field goals, but Starr would soon change that. He did it by moving the Pack 80 yards in 1 minute and 40 seconds. In the huddle, he called his own number, and with 7 seconds left, he finished the job. The Bears suffered a disheartening 20-19 loss in a game in which they had played well enough to win. Coach Jim Dooley used Bobby Douglas at quarterback for the game against the AFC's Buffalo Bills. The change brought results as Douglas fired 4 touchdown passes. 2 went to Seymour and 2 more to Gordon. For Gordon, they were his 9th and 10th touchdowns in 10 games. Douglas led the Bears to a 31-13 win, but he suffered a broken bone in his left wrist. He was out for the rest of the year, but with a memory of the fact that he threw 3 of his 4 touchdown passes after the injury occurred. The following week, it was back to Concannon against eventual Super Bowl champion Baltimore and Johnny Unitas. The Bear defense wasn't odd, and in the first quarter intercepted 3 of his passes. Two of them set up touchdowns, first on a hit to Farmer, and then a short one to Rich Cody. And the Bears continued to move well and build up a quick 17-0 lead. But by halftime, Unitas had brought the Colts close at 17-14. In the second half, the Bears intercepted 2 more Unitas passes and with less than 4 minutes to play, held a 20-14 lead. But then Unitas averted an upset when he hit John Mackey for a game-breaking 54-yard touchdown. The Bears, sadly, were on the short end of another one-pointer. The Bears next met the Vikings on a bitterly cold day at Minnesota as the offense was matched against the NFL's best defense. The Bears moved well in the first half, but could get only 2 field goals. The defense played another good game, too, and also gave up only 2 3-pointers. Actually, all that kept the game close was the Bears' inability to put points on the board when in scoring position. Only one touchdown scorched the Chicago defense, but that, plus 3 field goals, put the Vikings on the long end of a 16-6 score. That lead lasted only until Turner got his hands on a Minnesota kickoff, and the result? Right, an 88-yard touchdown return. Turner's 4th of the season, and important because it tied the NFL record set by Travis Williams of Green Bay in 1967. But for the first time, Cecil's blue chip effort came in a losing cause. The previous 3 all had figured in Bear wins. The second meeting with Green Bay undoubtedly was the Bears' finest showing of the season. An early injury sidelined Bart Starr, always a nemesis to the Bears and to many others in pro football too, for that matter. The Bears' defense was superb, reaching the Green Bay pocket 9 times. Everything worked to perfection, and individually, Concannon enjoyed his best single game. Backs as well as ends were used in a 339-yard air offense that saw 22 completions, 4 for touchdowns. Concannon was operating at high efficiency. He avoided the costly interception, and once, with his receivers covered, he ran for the score himself. But 4 times he hit touchdown targets. George Farmer made what was by now a standard catch. Dick Gordon got touchdowns number 11 and 12. And Concannon wrapped up the 35-17 win with a touchdown pass to Ray Ogden. The development of the passing game was due in part to an improving offensive line. Co-captain Jim Cadillo, Bob Hyland, another trade acquisition, Wayne Mass, and rookies Glenn Holloway and Jeff Kirchen, who filled in for injured Howard Mudd and Randy Jackson. The Bears' season closed with a 24-3 win at New Orleans. Craig Bainham returned from an early season injury and teamed with second-year man Ross Montgomery, number 22, who ran for 65 yards to wind up as the rushing leader for the Bears. Concannon had another big day, completing 26 passes for 270 yards. Gordon caught 9 passes and cinched his NFL receiving title. And Concannon tossed 3 more touchdowns. The stretch drive of 6 games was significant. The Bears won 3 by comfortable margins, and the 3 losses were by a total of only 5 points. So the Bears of 70 wound up with 6 wins and 8 losses. Emphatic improvement. And with a break here and there in the close ones, it might have been even better.